Welcome to SeerNova Podcast, Season 2, Episode 20. Yeah, Jeofrey. What's up?
What's up, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to come on the show for a while now, so I'm thankful to have the opportunity, man. See what we can talk about.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Yeah, we're booked until the end of September, which is crazy because it never used to be like that until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like pulling teeth to try to find people. And had a few people that kind of liked it a lot, and then more people liked it, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll keep doing this thing.
It's good though, man. It's progress, you know. I've seen a similar trend with some other friends of mine that are also, fellow creators and stuff that have shows and stuff, and they've got it rocking and rolling now. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So before you were a creator, you were like a collector of like comics. So how did you make the switch?
I started collecting, and then I got in during the pandemic and all that. I got into online purchasing and sales and auctions and all that stuff, like on Facebook, and really got addicted to it. Like it's this whole new world of comic book, like comic book, hobby enthusiasts and stuff. They're just everywhere, and so I got really into that. And then I got into the selling side of it more, and started making money, and then meeting a lot of people and learning about cleaning and pressing books. And submitting them to CGC and getting them graded and all that stuff, and just got really into it, man. It was like every week I was speculating, and I was at the comic shop, trying to see what book was going to be $20 if you paid $4 for it, and everybody gets one copy or whatever the heck, and got way into that side of it, and then eventually just one day, I've always wanted to do a book, and one of the guys that I was selling to, tattoo artist, and him and his buddy, and they had been wanting to do some stuff. And so we kind of just started chopping it up, and one thing led to another, and then Awful Thoughts was born, and that was the first book I ever did. It's the anthology. And yeah, man, it just, and then that one we did so well with that one, surprisingly, or I was very pleased with the success, the results of it. So much, in fact, I just took it and ran with it. But consequently, though, I kind of stretched myself too far and tried to do too much at once, and I wish I would have kind of kept things like a little more focused and like a laser point precision, rather than kind of spraying like an AK, because then I'm still suffering from that, not in a really in a hurtful way, but in a way that it's not conducive to me moving forward, so I'm still trying to unravel that ball of yarn before I can get things where I'd like them to be, and I'm almost there. But yeah, that's it though, man. I still collect, and I do that. It's a primary source of income. I still do sales and cleaning and pressing and all that stuff. But now I'm ready to make that difficult transition, that leap. It's challenging, as you can attest to, I'm sure. But I feel like if I continue to stay on the right track and everything, the backer support will be there, and eventually I'll be able to do it to where, as the process would be Kickstarter, and then you build up the little following on Kickstarter, get a big enough catalog, and then if you're wanting to, then you pitch that to Lunar or Penguin. Now you've got back issues, you've got completed series, you've got residual income, you got new projects, you got people watching you, people, movie studios, or who knows what the hell, like, so that's where you start getting into the big leagues and stuff. So everybody I've come up with, yourself included, and all that, we're all kind of like there, like knocking at the door. It takes a lot, as you know, man. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, and it's a full-time grind. Especially, I'm not sure how much is how many of the tasks you guys like relegate. How many people are at SeerNova do different things. But like for me personally, I learned, I taught myself how to letter and how to everything basically except drawing it. And, and I'm still learning that now. Like I'm in the process of optimizing my books, like using the templates that Comics Wellspring always wanted me to use, but I never used it. I was like, nah, I got it, and then, but as a result of it, I got trimming and, and clips and things don't come out quite the way you want them to, and so, but now though, I finally, after all this time, I've kind of been able to figure it out and put it together. And I'm excited to get these new prints out, all these new optimized books from like my back catalog, and then that way I can confidently move forward with my next Kickstarter. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
That's funny because that was like my next question. It was like a bunch of
What's that?
Was it like a bunch of different hats that creators have, and how you like juggle that? And you like answer that. So,
Oh yeah. And it helped that I had a background in Adobe Photoshop. I got into that real real hardcore whenever I was like and when I was in high school, like 90, I don't know, 98 or 99. Like when we still had to like make a website with HTML and crap. So I was right there. Like that was the big thing to have, and thankfully to this day, it's still a very relevant program and piece of software, and I've gotten pretty good at it, and I'm ready to even try to start doing like my own covers, like where I kind of like make like a digital collage of sorts, and I'll show you whenever they're ready. I wish I had them done, but being like the obsessive kind of perfectionist kind of person that my personality, I keep finding like one little thing wrong with it, and I mess with that, and then it does something else. It's like plugging a hole in a boat when it's like leaking, and there's like creates two more leaks, and so I'm at that stage right now, but I'm finally getting around, getting past that where I'm like, this looks good, Jeofrey, just move on. So but yeah, it's that was just that's a whole new thing that I'm taking on now as well. I mean, aside from lettering and then getting them printed and knowing about all that, writing of course, and then creating it with the storyboards and stuff. And then now trying to actually do artwork, aside not just dress the covers, but actually design them, and we'll see. I'm not sure how what's to come of that. I thought about using a pseudonym so people don't like judge me based off of knowing me as a writer, and then automatically dismiss the artwork or whatever. But I don't know, maybe I'm tooting my own horn a little too much already, so we'll see.
Yeah, for SeerNova, it's just me and Dylan. And then
Is
I
it
have
okay?
like the art teams and stuff. He's the Photoshop guy, so I'm not.
Dylan is, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. So like I use Canva, and sometimes I can make a post that's not shitty looking. But if they look good, it's normally him. So he's like the graphic designer. That's actually like how I found him. Was I could have just Googled it, but I didn't really know what I was looking for when I was like starting this company. So I was writing, and then my brother's friend, or I think it was my brother's friend. He's like, you should like try to find an artist. And I went on Craigslist, and I was like, I want a graphic designer. That's all.
Nice.
And then it was the only one to answer the email. And then we talked for like a year. I moved to Florida for like 3 months. Hated that. Came back, met him, and then I told him like basically all the story that I had for the thing that's now like shelved. It was this one big story called the Seer Chronicles, and then I split it into other series. That's why there's ink and all that other stuff. And he's like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was just gonna do a logo, and then he liked the story and a bunch of other things of like what I said, so he just ended up joining. And then I had to hire out the art teams and stuff. So yeah, it took a minute to find, but
yeah, it's that's another big part of the learning curve, and mostly just kind of getting lucky and being opportunistic is with finding artists. And whenever you do find somebody that you like, that you're happy with, man, you stick with them, and keep it real with each other, and you can have a real good functioning work relationship. And then like Tom is my guy, the Tom Cuthbert, and we kind of butted heads early on and stuff, and he's a tattoo artist again. Him and Trey are the ones that helped me put Awful Thoughts together, and I didn't know what would ever come of that, but lo and behold, here we are. 4 years later, and me and Tom have done like we got a whole body of work now, like multiple books, and I've had him. He's done like all sorts of artwork for me, and he's great. He's a great guy. We get along really well now, and he knows what I'm looking for, and I know what he would expect from me. And so I just try not to be too like micromanage stuff or be too overbearing. And you got to like let people create, give them their space. You know what I mean? And just kind of be patient. And that's something that again, relinquishing control of that sort of thing, is has always been a challenge for me. But something you definitely have to learn to do in this industry is especially whenever you're leaning on other people for help. So like I wish the people that have the best edge, the best edge, I guess, like, for lack of a better term, the guys that can draw and that can write. You know what I mean? Because usually it's one or the other. You know, I've seen a lot of guys that can draw really badass. They might not be as gifted with the words, you know what I mean? And then other guys like myself, that I feel like I can write really well and tell a really good story, but I can't, you know, I used to love drawing, but I can't draw, you know, let alone the panels. And like, I can tell Tom, like, I can write out like a little narrative. Like, I can make a little storyboard with some interior panels, just slap together some rectangles, put some stick figures in it, and then just give him a little descriptive narrative. And he just takes it and runs with it. It's like, man, that's just, I don't know. I don't know how, you know, how people can do that, man. It's incredible. So it's been fun to see that, to learn to be a part of that process too. You know, like, it's not just about telling a story. It's about like the comic book genre, the medium, and all that. Is there's a reason that I chose that one rather than just writing a fiction novel or something. You know what I mean? So it's been fun.
Yeah, comics are just somehow easier for me to write, because like I tried to write a novel a year ago or something. My Instagram still says like my personal Instagram says like writing first full novel, and I'm like, I'm still doing it's still the Google Drive. It was going to be there's one. Oh, now there's two technically. So there's one, and it was like nonfiction, and then I don't know. I like nonfiction stuff, but it was like boring me, and I was like, So
yeah, it's funny that you should mention that, because I did the same thing, man. Like, I was working at this little mom and pop Chinese restaurant around the corner. This family I know, and I was doing like a little bit of everything for them, mostly driving and delivering food and stuff. And then but I help out in the restaurant too and stuff, and had a lot of free time though in between. And so I started trying to write stuff, and I also got into doing video too. And I've enjoyed that a lot, but it's also very time consuming, and it's its own animal too, you know. And anyways, but I started writing, and I wrote the first book I wanted to do was kind of like a Dan Brown type of like serial killer guy thing, like it was, I only got about two or three chapters into that one, and it kind of just, like you said, I just kind of got bored with it. You know, I thought it was cool, but I was like, this isn't that fun. And then then I started getting, you know, once I got back into comic books and got a job at Dragon's Lair, this local shop down here back in the end of 2018. When I got back into the books and rekindled that flame there, I also got into D&D real big at that time too. And like, even to this day, I still do it. And so I wanted to do, and I loved playing Warcraft 2 whenever I was in high school and stuff. I got really into that. And they're a big, huge, like high fantasy guy, but I like it, you know what I mean? But I'm like not really ever drawn to one particular thing, you know what I mean? So it was something I wanted to try though, and because there's just so much you can. There's it's so fun to tell those. There's such a fantastic kind of world you can play in, you know. And so I after that serial killer Dan Brown type of idea I went on to the fantasy world, and I actually got like, man, dude, I got like, God, 30,000, 40,000 words like into it, like 160 pages or something, all on like the Google Drive. It's probably still on there somewhere. And it was great. It was I had a lot of fun with it, but I got like halfway through it, and I got to this point where I was just like, oh shit, what happens now? How do I connect it all? You know what I mean? And I just kind of like, I could not figure it out for the life of me. I was like, where I like, you know, like you're like mopping the floor and like mop yourself or paint yourself into a corner, you know, kind of one of those things. And I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm done with this. And so, but it was a lot of fun. It's still, yeah, I bet you if I really got to digging around, I could find it somewhere, man. But yeah, it's funny that you said that you had those kind of beginnings as well. And yeah, and like with comic books, it was crazy because when me and Trey and Tom got the Awful Thoughts thing going, I knew like Trey was really talented, and he did like a hip hop homage cover for me for DMX, and then he did these really dope like a EC Comics homage, and he's just really talented artist. I'm not sure what's become of him, but Tom they work together at the same tattoo parlor, I think, but at any rate. Trey, that he's like, once we started getting the comic book going, and I kind of gave him like these interiors, and we're just kind of like winging it, completely like improvising. He's like, hey, you're gonna need to get somebody to letter this, And I was like, wait, it's like I started thinking about it in turn, like my little gears are turning inside, like, oh shit, he doesn't do that. And I was like, oh crap. I think I got somebody else I got to pay money to, So I took it upon myself to try to figure it out, and man, it's been a process. But finally, I think I've got it down now. Like I'm really particular about it, and everything has to be like perfectly grammatically correct, and as much as I can at least. And then, and very nice and neat and uniform. But I use a speech bubble font that I paid for it. It's like it's a little package that somebody had, and you turn, instead of like letters, they're actual bubbles, and they're great, but they're limited with what they can do. And then if I really want to get them like expanded, where I've got like a big long like a little monologue or something in there, then I would probably have to start cutting them and taking them apart and putting them back together. And so I really wanted to delve into that. So I try to keep my dialogue and stuff. I try to, it's very short and sweet and to the point, and that way I can kind of get away with using those bubbles. But also that's always the kind of the writer I've been to. I kind of like, stick and move, and kind of jab, and then let it set up to something else, and then move on to the next thing. And I'm trying to not get hung up on anything too long, because I never really was a fan of reading stuff like that, where like, don't get me wrong, the old Silver Age books are the shit, but like I used to hate like turning a page and seeing a comic and it's just nothing but words, you know what I mean? Like, damn, I don't want to read all that shit. You know what I mean? So, but that's me personally, you know what I mean? So I've always tried to make my stuff a little more short and sweet and compact. And it just so happens that the speech bubbles were that kind of work together. But yeah, I'm really happy with where I've got on that. There's still a lot to do. And shout out to SK, man. I don't know if you do you know SK? Yeah, he's a cool dude. He helped me out a lot with like gave me some pointers whenever I was trying to when I was starting to try to find my groove, and he really kind of got me set on the right track as far as how top to bottom, left to right, yada yada yada. And then and so I'm really thankful to him, man. And I see him; he's still out there doing his thing. So it's good to see everybody that I started with and that I've talked to and met and befriended along the way to see them still doing good. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I should probably learn like lettering, but I hire a letterer. Well,
yeah. Do you you hire a letterer? Yeah. What is it? Do they? What's it about? Like $30 a page or something, or does it vary based on how many the words or what?
So I like always forget, but it's way less than that. Because I said that amount to Jerome Gagnon, and I was like, so is it like 30 or 35? Like, you could pay me that. I was like, wait, what? He's like, it isn't.
What do you mean?
Oh, how much is it?
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, you haven't done a comic in a minute. Yeah, so it used to be 10, like when he first started. It was 10.
Man.
I'm like, ooh. And
yeah.
Then now it's 11, and I think it's still 11. Yeah. So because there was like a gap between some comic I forgot that we did, and I was like, yeah, so I kind of need you again. And like, what sucks about him mostly being the letterer is he's most of the time doing like Travis Gibbs books.
Yeah, I have not know Travis personally, but we've corresponded and stuff online. We're friends on there, and I like to. I think I'm on his newsletter and email stuff, so kind of keep an eye on him, what he's doing. So yeah.
So if he's working on like Cthulhu or something, I'm like, so you're not free right now. Like,
yeah, right. Man, scheduling, man.
Yeah, so that if I learned the letter, that would probably help. But when we put our first book out, oh god, we put our first version of the Seer Chronicles out, and a few people saw that. My friend Aaron, who was like a reviewer of like comics and stuff, I don't think he's still. He's one of the people that I actually like gave it to him because he like doesn't live that far from me, and he reviewed it. He's like, story's good, but the lettering is terrible, and it wasn't me, it was Dylan. He's really good, but the lettering was really bad, and he's like, maybe we do hire a letterer. was like,
maybe we should. Yeah, that's how my books are. Yeah, I've got some of those early covers are incredible, and like they did really well. And the story, the interiors are great, but if you look at the lettering, it's like, oh man, like especially compared to how like you can see the leaps, the steps the evolution that I've made personally, but like yeah, it's just like oh god, like it's not something I'd be proud to show anybody by any stretch of my imagination. But yeah, early on though, it's good though to get. As long as you're okay with it, and I feel like you really need to be if you ever want to get anywhere. But constructive criticism and being able to take a little shot on the chin or whatever, and maybe somebody brings you back down to reality and let you know, like, hey, your book's not better than Stan Lee's book, sorry, or whatever, and because it's easy to get excited and to have tunnel vision and to try to compare yourself to other people's stuff. But what I learned is, man, just figure out how to do what where the bar is at. You can try to raise it if you want, but know what the standards are for stuff. Figure out how to make your stuff look like that, and then go, by all means, put your own twist on it and just leave it all on the table. You know what I mean? And then if you've done that, you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else. You got your own thing going on. You know what I mean? And everybody can eat off the same table, and it's you just got to get out there and you got to stand your ground and hold your own up there with people. You don't have to really try to get around or get over and stand taller than anybody else. You know what I mean? You just got to get out there,
Yeah.
and then and be confident with what you have, and that's a problem that I had early on, was that just kind of throwing everything at the wall and just seeing what sticks, and then not really knowing how far along I was, if I was making any progress from book to book. I kind of didn't. I lost my train of thought, but you know what I mean. Like that's what it was. I would always leave stuff on the table that I wasn't happy with. Like maybe that cover was like just not necessary. There's wasted money, and now I'm not going to reprint that. Or the way that these interior pages, the way that they're lettered, or any little thing. You know what I mean? The artwork, like maybe you settled for a couple panels that you felt like maybe if you would have said something, they might look a little differently, and now nobody else is going to see it, but you're always going to see it. And it's just like, you know what I mean? But so if you just take your time with it and focus on one thing at a time and kick ass with that, then there should be no problem with being confident in what you have, and people will gravitate towards that too. You know what I mean? You just got to find your flock, and there's a lot of people out there that are going to like you, and a lot of people that aren't going to care about you, and some people that might not even not like you. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of trying to get out there and let people know who you are and what you've got, what you're trying to do, and that's all there really is to it.
Yeah. It's funny that you're talking about tattoo artists. Was your artist? Because my tattoo artist is Ink, our series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's based on him if he was a superhero. Nice. And that's the closest thing I got to like him being a part of it. So like I was getting a bunch of tattoos at one point. Yeah, and I'm like, could you be the artist for this comic? Because that'd be kind of cool.
Could you maybe?
He's like, I don't know if I could draw the same thing over and over and over again. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I don't know if I would be able to do that. Like he's really good at art, but he's like, yeah, I don't know if I would be able to do that. Also the time, because around the time I asked, I think he was having his kid. So I was like, you're busy. So, and he's a busy tattoo artist. So,
that's Tom's the same way, man. They're just they got that, and they make good money doing that. So the comic book stuff is just kind of I wouldn't say a favor to me, because I'm sure Tom likes doing it and seeing his stuff, and we come together to make a book. But like I lean on him to do pencils, inks, colors. All he said, like that stuff is just, we were just talking about that the other day. He's like, man, maybe in the future, if you could find somebody to color it or something, it'd be great, because it's really kicking my ass. You know what I mean? And he gives me a really good rate on my pages and stuff. We've been working together for so long. So, For the sake of solidarity and having everything look the same, I'm hoping we'll get it sorted out. But I can imagine that how time consuming that all must be, to try to each layer of that, And it's fun to see the process, though. Does your guy, like with your artist, you usually have them they'll do pencils and sketches for you, and then kind of show you where things are at, but not really much detail. And you're like, okay, that looks good. And then they'll go in and kind of ink it in and show you. And then from there, you're like, all right, now it's looking really good. And then they'll go and color it. Same process for you, I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's like Christmas every single time you get a page or pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like the project manager, if you want to call that. So I'm the one that like finds the teams and then like talks to them, and then sometimes Dylan like sees pages. Sometimes he sees them way later. He's like, I didn't see these pages. I post them on Instagram like all the time. What do you? Well, I don't see that all the time. I was like, I tag you in that, whatever. So so like Adam for Ink, I think it was the first issue of Ink, it was kind of like, it was our first comic that we were doing, and it's very short. What I wrote was more of a storyboard, so Adam went off of that, and then Dylan looked at it before we did the lettering, because Jerome's like, this is a lot of words. I was like, oh. And it was like 9 pages. And Adam, that was like, I think one of the first books that Adam ever worked on. And he's like, that's a lot of words. You got to do something about that. We're like, So then Dylan was looking at it and he's like, we're changing the story. So we had to take what I had and then basically do the Marvel method and then go through the pages and then put the dialogue in where it was going to go, and then be like, okay, you're wrong. So that's how we had to do the first issue, and then going forward we did it better, but we didn't do it that way. But we had to do it that way just because my story was like way too long for how many pages we had. That told the first issue, and I was like, it was, he had a nightmare, he woke up, got the key, and then was forced to go on his little journey, or he would have died. So, so that's like 8-9 pages, and I was like, we gotta like fix that.
It's funny, it's funny how you can make something. You can either, like you said, it can be. It can feel like it's only going to be X amount of pages, but it ends up being like way more. Or if you need, like what I learned how to do early on was with the short stories, like with Awful Thoughts. I like those little 6-page short stories, because I just like, you can make them as weird and strange and just just make people be like, once after somebody gets done reading it, they're like, what the hell was that guy thinking when he made that story or whatever. And I want to do like several of those. And but when learning how to do that and getting into doing that early on, you're really forced to kind of stay within. You got to make it, you got to tighten it up, and so you can't really let the narrative like veer off too far, get off the rails or whatever. You got to kind of get real in there and just kind of make every panel. Every panel, every page count, you know what I mean? And then, because usually by the end of it, you got like a splash page on 6 or something. So you really got to either like 5 to work with or something. That's how I like to do it, at least, like the big reveals at the end of it, like, oh my God, what the hell? And, but yeah, so that's that. And I was going to say too, like when you were talking about the process, as far as that goes, like I'm pretty sure like I might be in a minority, or maybe all by myself, but like when I do the writing, so I've got a background in music and stuff. I used to do rap music and stuff, and not very good, but nevertheless, I've always liked to be able to do creative writing, and what was I getting at? But I don't know what I was trying to make that point from. At any rate, that's what it was, freestyling. So what I'll do is I'll get the storyboard, and basically like whenever I'm doing the storyboard on the paper, like the sketch to give to the artist, that's I'm writing it right there in my head. You know what I mean? So what'll happen is then I'll storyboard it out. I know exactly what I want to happen visually. And then once he gives me my artwork back from what I'm visualizing, then I go back in and letter it completely off the top of my head. Just kind of, okay, I know what I want him to say here. And sometimes it's a back and forth process of fine tuning it. But it's very much improvised and winged. And lately though, as I've learned how to kind of fine tune that, I've gotten really efficient at it. And like with the latest book we did, Cosa Nostra's Comrade with my buddy Jacob, I think you're going to have him on the show in a couple of months. I think he had said that. So, but this was his first project, and I helped do it about a Russian guy, Russian soldier during the time of like the Soviet Union in the 80s, and defects and comes over to the United States and reluctantly gets a job, kind of stumbles into this job with the Italian mafia. And I got to do the dialogue for that story. Was really cool because I just knew that I had these characters, and like, all these like Denny's and all these like, Goodfellas. And then you also got, you have Russian man, and he's like, the Russian. And so I'm over here. Like if you would have seen the process throughout doing it, you'd be like, man, that guy's crazy, man. Like talking to myself and all these different accents and shit. But it's cool because you get to become those characters for a little while, and you get to really bring them to life and stuff. And Jacob had names for these guys, and so but together we get in there and kind of iron it out and smooth it all out. And he relinquished a lot of the creative control to me in that regard, because it kind of was necessary though, because again, with like the way that I do my process, it's very much kind of just improvised. So it's like there's nothing really set in stone. So because of it being amorphous like that though, it helps, because if something isn't quite to somebody's liking, cool, we can just scribble it out and we can move on. We can try something else, but otherwise I love it though when it all comes together and like you give something to somebody and they're just like, man, that's great, you know what I mean? Like there's very little to criticize, and it all kind of comes together. And we're going to be working on the second issue of that one, hopefully within the next few months. So again, I'm unraveling this ball of yarn, and then it's going to be one Kickstarter at a time, even though I can do two at once. I don't want to, again, I'm trying to corral my base and everything, and pull in some people that maybe I've lost along the way, or use email lists and different things like that, like chimp mail and things that BackerKit could do for me, but I can do for myself. So but really try to get that support up. You know what I mean? Like, how it is. It's a tough grind, man. It's like nerve wracking, like, all right, we're day 6 here and I've got $500 and I need 2,000 more. So, like, all right, where's it going to come from? And I've by the grace of God though, I've been able to get, I've been 10 for 10 now, I think, on projects funded. And only one of them has been offset. It's still delayed, but it's coming soon. And hopefully within the next 2 months or so. It's like my sci-fi story called End of Man. And it just, whenever that book was coming out, I was trying to do way too much, and the financial part of it wasn't really there, and there was a lot of stuff just kind of fizzled out and fell apart at that time, and it was a real challenge to try to keep it all intact still. And I was debating on, because I had to take a lot of pre-orders and did Kickstarter, and but thankfully though, man, everybody's been really patient, and I've got some cool stuff planned to do for everybody that was supportive of that project. But I'm just really looking forward to getting all that out and done, and finally once and for all behind me, so then that way I can confidently move forward with my next Kickstarter. And that'll be Roseville number 2. I'll do number 1 and number 2 together, and that's my horror book. And I don't know if you've read that one or not, but it's really out there. It's dark and unforgiving and like Southern Gothic horror kind of thing. And that's what I was going to tell you though, is that Aaron, the guy that does that art for me, very cool artwork style. And he's the only guy though that doesn't give me pencils and then inks and then colors. I just tell him what I want him to do, and then he does it. And I was like, all right, I hope this works, and thankfully, I'm very satisfied with everything what he's able to do, because I try to give those guys a creative freedom and stuff too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever demand like that the characters facing such and such way, or that doing such and such. Cause what I can do is, if based on what they've given me back, if it doesn't really sync up with what I had in my mind, then I'll just reword it in my head and say, okay, this is what's going on here now. Or I need to provide more context here. You know what I mean? So that this makes more sense. And it seems to work out, man. Yeah, Aaron's the only guy though. It's like, all right, I hope he knows what I'm talking about here, because he's really gonna get one go at this. Otherwise, he's gonna have to redo the whole damn thing. And, but thankfully, yeah.
I'm the project manager, but when Dylan starts to see pages, he starts to like nitpick at some things sometimes, and then I had to tone him down 2 different times. So we remastered the Seer Chronicles, like the first issue, like a couple different times. So there's one version nobody will ever see besides us. And it was only the first 7 pages, because the guy I found on Instagram, he's like a skateboard art dude. He can't do sequential art. So that was bad. So I paid him, and then I was like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, I've had to do that too. Yeah,
and then Dylan looked, and he's like, well, maybe it's not the art. I'm like, nah, it's the art. But then we didn't have a colorist at the time, so he colored it in Photoshop. It didn't look that great. But then he looked at the script. He's like, oh, your script still looks like a storyboard, because we're still like working on like Ink 1 too. When that was happening, and then Ink just somehow came out before Seer Chronicles 1. So then I found this other artist, and he made the comic, but then he added things that I didn't tell him to add. There was certain things that we wanted didn't follow like what we wanted. I was still learning on like being a like project manager. So so I have a friend, and he can design games, and he was using Unity, and we kind of like consistency in our comics and stuff. Like that's like one of the big things. So he designed a 3D map of. So there's the city that I live in. It's based off of that city, but it's like
where do you live at?
Schenectady in New York. So it's not the greatest place, but it's that. But then it's like a mix of New York City, so it's like more skyscrapers than like what I have here. And the guy didn't really draw. And I was like, I'm like, okay. So when we remastered it, we had a different guy, and he followed that a little bit better. And we actually had pictures from the game, which has been shelved for a while. That's going to be a thing at some point. But so
is it a Seer Chronicles game?
It's gonna be more of a like our universe in total game. But this is gonna be different than that, because Seer Chronicles is definitely shelved. It's a different thing now. That happened in February when like I tried to launch the 3rd issue. That issue is almost done, but now we are rebranding the series, because I was noticing for the last like 2-ish years that like people weren't that excited about that series, Seer Chronicles, and then that Kickstarter was not doing well at all. I was like, what is happening? And the art is amazing, because our friend Hector is the artist for that one, and now, and just for that one. And then now the inker will be the artist going forward. But we rebranded it as Fireproof. So the 3rd issue of Seer Chronicles works as a first issue still, just how it's written. So the first 2 of Seer Chronicles are like gonna be like an anthology thing at some point. So when we want to tell origin stories for other people and stuff, we're gonna just do it that way. But that's not gonna happen now. So that thing is shelved, and so we changed it to Fireproof. But yeah, not learning that way ahead of time kind of like hurt us a little.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had some similar hurdles and pitfalls and stuff like I've had. And I'd imagine it's probably fairly common for people that are kind of just stumbling into this and trying to learn on the fly and stuff. There's definitely a lot to take in, and especially if you're committed to the project, like if you want to be if you want to have creative control over it, and if you really want it to be done right, you know what I mean? And like that's where that saying comes from. I'm assuming, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So that's not to say that you don't bring other people in and trust other people to do certain things, and because that's what being a good project manager and stuff is all about. You know what I mean? Knowing who to delegate these things to and who to entrust that to. And it just sucks that you have to spend a lot of money and burn, and meet people only to have them, never be a thing. Like they're a ghost all of a sudden. Like you're talking to them real tough for like 3 or 4 months or a year or whatever, and really excited about stuff, and then shit just doesn't work out the way you want it to. The art's not there, the personality might not be there, there might not be dependable or whatever, just various things happen. And I've been on both sides of that. So I'm speaking from experience, and it's just it's a tough part of the game. But I think that at this point, for me at least personally, I've got a nice little collective of people that I work with, and as long as I'm able and I can, then I'm going to keep trying to, as long as it looks okay, then I'll keep lettering it myself and trying to save money and time there. And hopefully my artists and everybody will continue to be on the up and up, and we can get some stuff done, because it's like, I'm looking down the road, like, okay, how long is it going to, let's see, it's taken me 1, 2, 3, how many years to get 1 or 2 issues out, it's like, I got 6 of these things, like, when the hell I'm never going to get, I'm going to be 70 years old before I get to pitch this thing to Lunar or something, and it's like, but really that's not the case. It's just, I think it's a lot harder getting it going, getting the ball rolling and finding your way. And then once you find your footing and you got a little momentum, then I think it starts to kind of snowball from there and pick up. And I think that seems to be a popular trend, or recurring theme, I should say, with like the guys that have taken it up a notch from where I'm at. Like let's see, like Carissa. Worthy Redemption Chronicles. Yeah, she's great. She's awesome. So like, as far as I know, like she's working with like Ivan Tao now, and she's got the cover deal going, and she's always had successful Kickstarters and knows how to brand herself and everything. And it's good to see her making that step. Oh, there you go. Nice. And then, and Laurie Calcaterra, of course, over her Path of the Pale Rider, and she's continued to grow, and look at her Kickstarters, and they're doing like $6,000 or something. I'm like, man, go girl. So I was going to be on her show last week for the 3rd time, and I couldn't make it, so we had to reschedule for November. But yeah, Laurie's awesome, and like Rob Multari, I don't know Rob that well, but I see him grinding out there too and working hard, and I think Travis is another guy that I've seen put the work in and stuff. So it's nice to see that it does happen. We just got to kind of. You got to put the work in and be patient, but like you said though, man, these little pitfalls and financial losses and setbacks and shit, like you can only take so many of them, before you're like, oh man, fuck this, or like I'm done. Like it's really easy to get frustrated, especially whenever you don't see like when you put all the time you put into making the Kickstarter page and the videos and how much hype you built up around it and the money you've invested in it and the time that you told the story, and this is the greatest thing ever to you, but like nobody else gives a shit about it. It's like, man. And so, however, though, it's up to us to make them feel it. You make them feel you. You know what I mean? And as long as it just takes a little time to get there, but eventually, I think we'll all get there. I think so.
Yeah, I like every Kickstarter. Well, every Kickstarter every year. As we keep doing this, we're like learning something new.
Yeah.
And we just did Night Watch issue 1 in April. One thing I didn't like personally was just I didn't promote it as much as I wanted, even though people probably did see like the posts like every day. Almost. So Dylan came up with a launch plan that is like for 30 or 31 days. So he figured out like a social media launch plan because he's a marketer. That's like one of his other things. And I didn't follow it to a T, and it funded, but like it could have done better. And like going forward, I want to try to be on more people's shows and stuff if I can, but that's like the one thing. And I didn't put all the focus in that I normally put into it. And yeah, so I kind of like hated myself for doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
it's
that's
all right. You'll
what
get
I think. So
you know, you've at least, you know, you've again, you said it's fun, dude. And it looked great as far as I don't think I've read it yet, but I think I backed it. But nevertheless, the artwork looked great, and from what I did see, like, and man, as I'm sure you can attest to, man, that sharing and fucking posting in like 20 groups every day, and going on this social media platform and this social media platform and linking this and linking that and keeping all the files and pictures, and it's like, man, it shit it wears you down. You know what I mean? Like, you can only do so much of that every day. Like, you know, like an hour a day. It's like, I'm just physically exhausted. I haven't even done anything, you know, like my brain hurts, you know, it's like, God. And it's like, and a lot of the times it's just like, I don't even know how many people it's really reaching, you know, or like, so nevertheless, though, it's just a necessary step along the way. The cool thing is, nowadays with different programs and softwares and services, like with AI and algorithms and different things, that they make it real easy now, to where if you can, you know, if you put the time and the effort in, like I've got Shopify, and I've got my kingdomcomics.com website through on there, and I love it. And what I just noticed the other day when I went back to kind of reconstruct, I had to kind of restructure it all, you know, and get it all set back up to where these new prints will be there and visible, and everything looks nice and smooth and clean. And during that process, though, I noticed that I have access to like multiple features that do all sorts of like streamlining and generating business and Google view like searches, and people like seeing your name and your website, and all sorts of like stuff. It looks like it's just free. It's a part of it's a service that they offer. So I really want to, like you said, when it comes time for the next Kickstarter, I really want to invest a little personal time into learning how that stuff works, because once you get it going, it's probably really easy, but it's just kind of intimidating. Sometimes it's like, you know, we'll do this and do that and do this and do that and go here and go there, and you know, and it's like, I don't have time for that. You know, it's probably just a click of a few buttons, probably, or just a little patience. But you know, there's just always something else to do. So it's just like, man, I don't want to waste any. I don't want to spend my time on that today. I want to do something else or something. So, but nevertheless, though, yeah, man, it's a grind, bro. And you know, that's another good thing. Those guys that have the I've noticed, like the people that have big teams and stuff, you know, and granted they have to break bread, and everybody has to get theirs on in that process. And I'm sure it costs more money for somebody that's bringing on multiple members, but ideally the more people you have that you're working with, the more people are going to be sharing it and getting it out there, and reaching their base, and then their base, and then their base. Whereas if it's just like me or you or something, it's like our base, you know, and then maybe a few people that we know, they'll share it and stuff. But if you got like 7 or 8 or how many people constantly bombarding social media with it, you know, it's gonna, you know, that's just that much easier for you to find your footing, you know, get your money.
Yeah, Dylan doesn't have the best reach for comic stuff because he doesn't have that many like. He has creator friends, but not like as many. So when we were trying to figure, so we were going all about the stats for Night Watch, because he wants to like do market research and shit. And I'm like, oh, I want to see how many like your link gets over mine. He's like, your link's gonna, and he got 2 instead of 1. Normally he gets like 1 person. I was like, hey, I got 2. But yeah, like it's.
Have you seen that at the end of your have you ever looked at the stuff, the post game analysis kind of stuff for Kickstarter that shows you like where all of the different funding and stuff came from?
Yep.
It's really cool. Yeah, I don't know if you know. Yeah, that I like looking at that stuff, and it shows you like how when you got organic business, like organic support, and like that's what I've always wanted to kind of break into, is like I like seeing that, like where people just kind of stumble across it and they're like, "Ooh, this looks cool," you know, because it's easy to say, like, you know, John, Joe, and James, you know, those are my buddies from high school. Of course, they're going to get a copy, you know, and so that's easy, no problem, guaranteed. But seeing these other people, complete strangers, take an interest in your book and find it through like Kickstarter or something is really neat. And like I've only had one book so far that I've done that got the Project We Love button, and that was really cool. It felt really good because it's like, oh man, that's neat. It didn't do a whole lot, I don't think, but it was still cool to know that it had been the what.
it doesn't do that much anymore. It used to, like, because people.
Oh yeah. But it was cool to think that, like, okay, now it's going to have a better chance at being seen by more people, and maybe that'll help it, do a little better. But nevertheless, it's I do like that stuff. At the end of the game, kind of going back and watching the film and kind of seeing, like, okay, what worked good here and what didn't, and try to build on that for next time,
Yeah, like I know that superheroes don't do well, but that's the stories I tell. So those are always like kind of like a struggle on there. But Mittens is our best one so far. So each time we do,
I was gonna ask you about that one. How many issues have you done for that one?
The third one is like getting to the finish line. It's
nice.
The artist is he's had, his life has been crazy. So we've put out so many different updates. There's somebody that just reached out to him yesterday or 2 days ago, because I saw something, but it wasn't even for that. It was because we changed our vanity URL on Kickstarter, because when we first started Kickstarter, I didn't know that that didn't change for some reason.
Yeah, me either. Mine's still the same for like my first book, but it's like it's just the same name, the name of the book, but all the other ones are like different stories. It's like whatever.
So it's set for the whole time until now, because they let me change it. It was SeerNova Comics / TSC Deluxe Edition, which is the Seer Chronicles Deluxe Edition, and that was like the Ricardo version of Seer Chronicles, and then that was just like the tag the entire time. And then I was like, yeah, we need to like change this. So we like looked into it, and then I emailed this Victoria person, and then she's like, oh yeah, just do this. Oh, I gave you access, and then you can change it. I was like, cool. So now it's changed to just SeerNova Comics, and then it'll be whatever. So
nice. I need to look into. I need to do that myself, because everything I've got says like awful thoughts / something or other, and I'm like, whatever. I know it matters. I was just like kind of like, well, I'll deal with that later. It's not because it's not hurting anything right now, but I definitely want to get that adjusted and stuff, because like you said, it does matter. You know what I mean? And if anything for presentation, but then also like you said, if it's a hashtag or a particular link that's got a more generalized way of generating business for you, then by all means.
Yeah, and then because like Mittens just does better because people like cats and space and stuff.
Yeah.
So the reason I did Mittens was because I was like, oh well, superheroes like struggle, so I'm gonna make like just all ages kind of thing. Well, first it wasn't all ages because I had like one swear word in it, and then the artist is like, you swear like once in this, and I was like, oh, you can just take that out, and I was like, yeah. So he drew an old version. It's probably gonna be in the trade, but it's an old version of like what Mittens looked like, and it was gonna be like actually in color instead of like the blue monochrome thing. And then it's him saying shit, and I was like, oh, we just get rid of that. And then he's like, you turn down like the violence from like showing murder to like pew pew, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's better. So then it's just like a lot more people like that, so I was like, oh yeah, we'll just keep doing it that way. Because it was a little bit darker. But now
that's something that I don't know if whenever but to do, but like all my stuff is like it's pretty dark and violent and a lot of cussing and very much adult themed stuff, and even though it narrows my demographic more, it's something I'm kind of comfortable in, but after doing this Cosa Nostra book, that's not like not a horror book, it's more of like an action drama kind of deal, and after getting into that side of it and kind of find like just kind of getting away from just weird horror and stuff. It kind of wants me to start creating other stuff, and like to come full circle with the fantasy novel and stuff. I do dungeon master duties right now. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm doing a little 10 session like a homebrew campaign. Do you play D&D at all, or know anything about terminology or anything?
We've done it on a virtual Comic-Con. So since 2020, we've had a virtual Comic-Con, and
Nice.
we did it the second year. We did it with Chris Saloff because he's a dungeon master, and that's how Crit is made. So yeah, so I'm like, oh, we could do that, and then like I try to see like who would want to do that. So it's me, Dylan, this Justin guy that we're gonna be working with on something, and then Chris and Chris. We did like a Strangers Thing one, and it was cool, but we never got to finish it because
what I wanted to do was take some elements or like names and different things from that original novel I had written, but I wanted to put them in this. So I created this world that's just basically a reskinned version of something that's like in the Dungeons and Dragons lore and stuff, you know. But it's really cool, and so I'm putting together. I have like a little 10 week thing, like a little mini campaign. It's got a lot. It's real action packed and dark and unforgiving, like Lord of the Rings, you know, rated R Lord of the Rings kind of thing or something. And a lot of fun though. But what I'm doing is this campaign that I built out and planned. Like tomorrow is going to be the second one for this group that I'm working with and or playing with, and their characters are going to help kind of develop the story and determine sort of what happens. Like, and so what I want to do is at this story, once it gets done or far enough along and I'm ready, I want to adapt it and convert it into a comic book. You know what I mean? And call it. I think I'm going to call it "Let the Blood Pour," and because it's kind of at the top of it all. It's like vampires and undead and like the Legion, the Lightless Legion or something like that. And so that would like the Let the Blood Pour, you know, it's just perfect for me for like, you know, the violent stuff and hacking off arms and just like that unforgiving, brutal world, you know, like that I'd imagine like orcs and stuff like that comes from. But yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun though, because I'm actually kind of just winging it. And I know how the story goes and who the big players are and what happens. But as far as how it develops and gets there remains to be seen. So hopefully my friends that I'm playing with, I'm going to be doing it for 2 different groups, actually. One will have a much quicker, much further along, much bigger head start than the other group. Because we're still playing a campaign for like, I got a home group that I've been playing with some buddies for like 6 years now. And just about every week, and they kind of rotate the DM duties there, and I mostly just like to play in that group. But I'm gonna get my feet wet again there. And this other group I've done stuff with before, and took a leave of absence for a while because the comic book stuff was just getting to be way too much, and I couldn't really dedicate any time to like, because it takes time. You know, you got to plan out, you got to draw these maps, and you got to set up these characters, and you got to make all these scenarios and shit, and tell all these little stories and ideas in your head. And then the chances are the players might not even mess with it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there's an abandoned building over there and a bunch of shiny gold in there. You want to go mess with it? Like, nah. We're just gonna. You're like, oh man. So then you got to kind of circle back and like kind of put that same thing like a little bit further ahead in the path on the way they're going. So you don't want to ever railroad the party, but you got to try to take, you know, if you're my point is it takes a lot of time to put in, to really put something in thought into those things, man. You got to do the sounds, like you don't have to, but like doing the voices and stuff is a lot of fun. And the role playing part of it takes a little while to get kind of comfortable with it. And more so for some people more so than others. But once you get good with that, it's a lot of fun, because then you can kind of just you know, what I do now is like, my character on Wednesday, it's basically a reskinned version of Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty, and so he's just, yeah, and so that's what I do. Like before him, I had a little guy, his little cosmic goblin named Ugor, which is like Grogu backwards almost. So he's like basically a little baby Yoda, and he's like a little pyromaniac, and he likes Metallica, and like he like masquerades as like the Black Salamander at night. He's like a superhero, like vigilante, and all he really does is like go and like burn stuff down. But it was that's a lot of fun, man. He had like a Nintendo Power Glove because his vocal cords were cut, so he couldn't communicate. So he had to go get this other little guy to make him a Power Glove, and so it's like talks like Stephen Hawking on his Power Glove, you know. And so it was a lot of fun. And but yeah, you can take those characters and just get all sorts of weird with them, and that's what I like doing. Though a couple of my buddies are like real mathy and stuff. They like rolling the dice and adding this modifier and adding that modifier and maximizing the damage. And I'm like, man, what happens if I go in and kick that what over there, go push that over there, you know? And then like to see what comes from that, you know, and to mess around with that world that's been created for you, you know. So, but yeah, so hopefully it'll take off though, and then maybe in the coming months, that's one of the projects that I'd like to see get developed. But in the meantime, I've got a lot of fish to fry, and like so Awful Thoughts, Razor Wire McGuire, Cosa Nostra's Comrade, and Roseville are all like the four main titles right now. Two of them, Razor Wire and Cosa Nostra, were projects that I took on to help other creators like see their visions brought to life. So Steven Rios, my buddy, he did Razor Wire McGuire, and eventually we're gonna get number 2 going. I think it's really cool, a lot of fun. The only problem is that the artist Jordan Dorenzo, he's a friend of mine. He's very talented and he's on the up and up. And his stuff's a little pricey, you know what I mean? So not to say that he doesn't deserve it, but man, it gets expensive, you know what I mean? And then also the availability and stuff. But like with somebody like Jordan's echelon, and what he would like, it's like, man, it's almost like you priced out of the market, you know what I mean? Because like if once you put all that money into it, if you don't get the funding for it, it's like, well, shit, I just had to pay. It just cost me $1,500 to make this happen, you know, or whatever. Like after I've shipped everything, so I've had, you know, projects like that where, yeah, they got funded, but I end up having to chip in, you know, and it's fine and well, but I want to get to the point where like I'm profiting and making this like a you know, I wouldn't say a worthwhile thing, but financially where it makes sense, you know, where like now, like every time you launch a Kickstarter, you got 150, 200, 250 backers, 5, 6, 7 grand or whatever, you know, only going to cost you 3 or 4 total or something. And so now you can throw a couple grand in your pocket every time or something. And then things start to look a little better, you know, and make a little more sense. And you know, and then before you know it, you've got a little catalog, and then you can pitch it to Lunar or somebody. And that would be the really cool time, you know, to see the books go from being like where these humble beginnings that we've got, and then to see them to one day walk in the store and, you know, we can put they'll put my books on the shelf, like I'm sure they would for you at your LCS or anywhere around town or whatever, and that's fine and well, but like I want to see them like actually like I want to not have any part to play in it, and they just go on there onto the previews book one day, 2 months in advance, and see my little fancy little covers on there and say, "Ooh, I'll get 6 of those," you know, and I go there and I go to the other store down there and they've got 6 of them. You know, or maybe it's all sold out. Everybody likes it or something. This should be really cool, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
nice.
That's the dream.
It's always nice when like hearing somebody that likes your comic or whatever, and you don't even realize it. Like today, my coworker, he has a nephew and he likes comics, and he's like, oh yeah, so I just saw my nephew like the other day. I was like, okay. He was reading Scales comic. I was like, didn't he already read that? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I really like this one. I want to keep reading it like again and again and again. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's like, he asked my coworker. He's like, yeah. Does your friend like have another one coming out? And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So
yeah, that's always a great feeling, because, you know, that means that they're interested enough. You did a good enough job to where you've got them now. We're like, all right, I want to know what's going on next. You know, when's that going to happen? And it's like you wish you could tell them like, yeah, man, it's on my website right now. Go get it. But you know, it takes time, But one day it'll be fun to where you will be able to do that and be like, hey, are there more of these? And be like, yeah, matter of fact, there's 5 more issues and they're right over here for the low price of $6 each or whatever the hell, not I'm just being silly in that regard. I don't mind giving people, if somebody enjoys my books, I'll give them away. I don't mind at all. You know what I mean? Because it's really about just, I like to create stuff and share it with people. And obviously, I'd love to get compensated and paid and make a living out of it. But at the same time, just like you said, seeing people like smile when they see your book, or to be able to talk about like, oh, that one page, or that time then when this guy did that, or that cover, man. And the other day I had a buddy of mine that a local guy that I was selling some bulk books to, and he came and got some, and then down the road he told me he bought some on his own from somebody else, and it was a big, like a long box, and he pulled out some of these books and he showed them to me. He's like, hey, do you know what these are? And I thought he was fucking with me at first because they were my books in somebody else's long box, and they were old books, like this one about this Colombian like vigilante girl, this teenager that fights back against the cartels, called Birds of a Feather. And there's some cool covers on, like some homage covers. There's a El Mariachi and some Wolverine ones and some neat stuff. And but he pulled those out and he's like, oh, those are mine. I was like, he's like, are you serious? And then he did the same thing again, like with another box. And I thought that was really neat. But to have just whenever, like if you do conventions and stuff, and I might not necessarily remember somebody by name, but if I have a pretty good memory, like once I get to talking, or if we kind of jog my memory or whatever, and to see somebody that's like stayed up with you and stuff, and you might not even realize that, but they might not do it all the time, but just checking in and making sure, like, okay, what's Jeofrey got going on, what's Greg got going on, and that's where it's nice to have some kind of semblance of direction there, like where you can go online and you can find. That's why I wanted to get kingdomcomics.com rocking and rolling, and that way, it's, even though it's limited and it's just very simplified, at least it's a base of operations where somebody can then go and they can get a hold of me, or they can see what's happening, and then from there, I would really like to start pumping and moving my books out through there. But again, it takes time. So that's where we're at right now, man.
Yeah, there's a Comic-Con that I really like that's around here. We did both the spring show and the fall show last year, and we were going to do this. Well, Dylan was going to do the spring one in this month, but I was in Disney, and then he couldn't afford with the plane ticket and like how much it would have been and all that other stuff. Said no. Well, he didn't really give an answer to the guy, and I was like, oh. And then I'm trying to get the fall application because I really want to do it. There's like 8,000 something people that go there, which is crazy.
Nice.
And our table was in the same spot as in the fall show as it was in the spring. And the reason was that I wanted that was because in the spring, the celebrities were like, so our table was like here, and then the celebrities were like just not far away from us. So they were like, and this one dude that voices, I don't remember the character, but some One Piece character. He's tall as fuck. But so he's over there, and then Dylan just goes to start talking to him. I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, that has nothing to do with stories. So so we became friends with this one cosplayer. He dressed up as Mario. And then I didn't understand the joke at first. So he's like, my brother isn't coming tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, yeah? You have like a twin or some shit? He shows up and he's Luigi. And I'm like, oh, I'm stupid.
I figured it out.
Yeah. So then he was like, oh, you thought I had like a brother? I was like, yeah, I'm stupid. He's like, oh. So he came up to our table in the fall, and then there was a girl that bought mittens. Or no, I just gave it to her in May because her birthday was around the whatever day it was. And I forgot that I did that. And she came up and she's like, yeah, you gave me my favorite comic.
No, nice.
And it was my birthday gift. I was like, wait, what? And she's like,
Yeah.
And it's in May, I was here, and then you gave me that for my birthday. I was like, I completely forgot about that.
I know it's funny because yeah, it's cool to know that had that. No matter how big or small it was, that obviously made an impact on that girl's life. Like it mattered to her, and it sucks that like I've had that happen before too. Where I like feel bad, like damn, I wish I was. This person makes me get me fired up. Like I wish I could remember and be as passionate as they are. But it's awesome to know that you're able to do that for somebody else in that way. That you networked like and linked up, that made that connection like that.
And then in the fall, I think I had her get the second one. I think she bought the second one because she got the first one for free, and she's like, "Oh yeah." So I think I actually got sale out of it, but like I completely forgot that I did that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I really like conventions, and I didn't think I would because I'm not a people person.
Yeah, they're fun. You just got to kind of got to just get settled in, and then again, if you're confident with your merchandise and with your product, and it's really easy at that point. So it's easy to get a little excited and apprehensive and kind of worried about what do people think, or is this look all right, or like 10 people walk by and nobody says shit to you, just kind of like you're like, hey, how's it going, and nobody even says anything, and you're like, all right, well, okay, never mind. And it can get a little it's a little discouraging and awkward at times. It can be, but really you just kind of got to like get over that, like maybe get over yourself, I guess, in that way. Like me personally, I'm like, let's just have fun with it. And it's like I worked in restaurant industry a lot, like majority of my adult life, and so hospitality and waiting tables and bartending and managing and knowing how to having to talk to people and interact with people, and there's all sorts of different personalities out there, and there's some people that can talk your head off, and other people that don't want to say a word, and everything in between, and so really you just kind of be yourself. And like, don't ever feel like pressured to like say something or sell something to somebody, like, and just get in, be yourself. And whenever you get out there, and you'd be surprised. Like I've always surprised myself with how much fun I usually end up having. And you meet people that are there, like other artists or creators and other vendors, and make connections, and being able to sell some books, just like being able to sell enough product to be like cover your table fees and maybe get you some lunch, and then you get the experience behind you. I'm happy with that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to trying to make to make a killing or anything, but it'd be great. But most of the time, just being able to break even and to get to the experience is really has been worthwhile for me. So
I like it's easier for me if people are like cosplaying and I know the character and I can do this. So we did this very small con in this mall that's like not far from my house, that's in a failing mall. And the guy that put it on, he put on a different con 2 years ago, and it was cool. We were one of the only people that actually made not a lot of money, but money. And so we did the cryptid con that he did last year, and it was in like October. We would have got more people so there was like 4 different events going on at that mall, and nothing normally goes on at the mall, but playing it all out at the same time. The person that does the marketing for that mall is just trash. So, and like Dylan was gonna like help like with all that, but they said no, and I was like, okay, whatever. I like live like not that far from the mall. I could totally just take pictures and shit, but whatever. So we did this cryptid con type thing. It's called Do You Believe Con. It was cool, but there was not that many people. The only time people came up to our table normally is they were doing a scavenger hunt for some other event, and they came up to me, and I'm like, well, I know this mall like crazy, like easy. So yeah, like just come up to me and I'll tell you where you gotta go. And they're like, oh, okay. But there was also, they were doing like some trick-or-treating thing for some reason, and one girl was dressed up like Stitch. I was like, oh, Hannah's family. And then like she didn't come up to the table, but she like I got a rise out of her at least. So I was like, oh, that's
nice.
But so I do
it's cool. Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And at SeerNova Comic-Con, there was a girl dressed up like Lilo from Fifth Element. And
Yeah.
she was dressed like that. And we had Mittens, and the second cover of Mittens is homage to the Fifth Element.
Nice.
So she's walking by, and then she sees like cats, but then she is walking. And I was like, "You like the Fifth Element?" And then like, there's this whole marketing thing that Dylan showed me. If you take whatever you have, comic, and you grab it, and then you like open it and you put it in their hands, it's like it's theirs. So I did that, and then I'm like, "Do you like cats in space?" And then I just opened it and I put it in her hands, and then she's like, "Oh my god!" And she told her boyfriend or whatever, and then her boyfriend like turned around and was like, "What?" And then he's like, "Oh my god!" It's like, "It's so cute." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right." So, and I was like,
"Those
both."
Those I love the homage covers and stuff. Especially whenever you can when you try something. I don't want to discount anybody else's, because I've done some that are been done to death too, probably. But like, some of them like they're just watered. There's so many of them out there. Like that certain homage covers have been just done repeatedly. Like they're not any fun to look at anymore. But other times, like if you can come up with one that's like clever and like it works out and it works together, then it's cool, because like, for example, Awful Thoughts. I happened to meet a guy named my buddy Ryan, who makes a book called Badger, and he's out in Canada. And I met him on like a Kevin Smith Facebook post or something, like wishing Kevin Smith a happy birthday, like randomly or something. And he happened to be there. And I think I said something about being a comic book writer, and had that he, I know he's never going to read it or anything, but I just felt like saying something nice, and so I did, and this guy responded, and one thing led to another, and it just so happened that he was fun to work and stuff, and his art is different, though. It's not quite what I'm looking for like interior pages, but I was like, there's got to be something I can do with this, and so sure enough, I decided to do that Green Day Dookie homage with the album cover. I've always loved that cover. It's just got this weird stuff going on, and so I was like, you know what, just take this and then just make it a bunch of weird murdery, bloody, gross, nasty stuff, like do all sorts of fun little wicked shit in there. And so sure enough, man, he did it, and it came out really good. And I'm actually that's gonna be the variant cover that I'll consistently reprint moving forward, along with cover A. And but I've had that when I had an art print for that rather than a comic book for a little while, just a print, and I'd set it on the table, and people would see it all the time, man. Anybody's a Green Day fan, they'd be like, "Oh man, that's so cool," and then it gives you a talking point, and then now you've pulled in fans of the band, and then you can sell them your book, versus as somebody that's a fan of the book, that you're trying to convince, like, "Oh, the album cover, man, you remember that one back in like '93?" You're like, "No, I was born in 2008." And it's like, "Oh, no, never mind." But anyways, so those are always really fun. The one we did one, I was helping a guy for the geek and game community. Those guys over there, he wanted to adapt his like logo character, like a zombie guy, into a comic book, or like a zombie hero kind of thing. And I had Tom do a Altered Beast video game homage variant. Have you played that video game, Altered Beast from Sega Genesis?
I've never played it.
So it was a really fun game. It's really old, but like the cover itself is the artwork is really neat. And man, he did just a not stand-up job, man. And but the guy that contracted that's his art, so I could never really do anything with it. But man, I would have loved to have had that one out there to show people, because man, it's so cool. And the hip hop covers have been fun too. But I've kind of had to like get away from those, because I don't know if I'm like using, not only am I doing like hip hop homage, like for the artists themselves, but then I'm also homaging Marvel, but in the way that like it's using the same format that Marvel uses for its stuff. So I don't know if there's any kind of like legal ramifications there. Thankfully, I'm not big enough deal that would even matter. But I would just sooner avoid that than have to mess with that, and or just try to redo it. Like, don't use the Marvel's template. Just do an album cover, but make it more consistent with like a regular traditional looking comic book, rather than like the black borders and the certain way that it's written, like the fonts and stuff. But yeah, those have been fun too, though, man. Again, being a hip hop guy, That was something that seemed like a natural fit. And then the DMX one was so cool to start. And there's still a few of those floating around on eBay, and it's cool to see them. They go for like $10-20 or something, you know. And I did after that we did a Ice Cube Death Certificate, I think it was called, and then I did a Snoop Doggy Dogg one, and with Sammy Stokes, and then I had one of the guys that like kind of flaked out, and like we talked about earlier, about how people kind of just it doesn't really happen to work out, you know. We did we were gonna do the UGK Riding Dirty, and down here, like I don't know if you know who they are, Underground Kings, but they're really big down here, and the CD is great, and that one's never been done. I don't think even Marvel didn't do that one, so I was really excited about that one, and it never came to fruition, but. It's neat though. You see, like you can look back on all that stuff, and like I'm sure you probably have. Like, have you done quite a few homages over the years?
So you kind of like didn't like blow up in my face, but so for Ink 2, we have so many different covers, and I was like not doing that many.
So many different covers.
Yeah, and it was the same cover, so it wasn't that much work for Adam. It was so there's a cult that's in the Ink series called the Faceless, and they wear different masks, and it's a homage to like the Power Rangers cover. There's like the Red Ranger is on one side, and then it's like yeah, I can't even think of any of the villains right now. But
you mean like from like Goldar and Rita Repulsa, those kind of.
Yeah, so one of them, and so it would be like split. So we did that, and then it was like whatever the mask is, and then whatever rank the mask is that. So there's like foot soldiers and stuff, and then there was like one or two people that messaged me on like Instagram that I like sent the project to, and they're like, it's the same cover. And I was like, now you gotta look closer. And they're like,
you gotta look closer.
And I'm like, yeah, there's a mouth for the sergeant because they can talk, and then there's ones that don't have a mouth, they can't talk. And
like, yeah.
So
you got this big great idea in your head, and it's like when it doesn't quite translate the way you'd like it to. And you know, I've had that happen before, and I was like, man, what? How come they don't see it? Like, how come they don't get it? Like, what? But again, though, trial and error, man. You got to kind of figure it out, you know, what works, and it's neat. It's neat though to look back at. Like, I'm just kind of thinking about it now because there's some of these covers I've done, and I'll do them just for Kickstarter, and I'll print 50 or 100 of them, and those are gone. And once those have cycled through, then it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm already moving on to something else, or I don't see a huge demand for that, or I wasn't completely 100% thrilled with it. And like you said, a lot of covers means more opportunity for confusion and stuff, you know, like virgin covers, especially like on new books and stuff. Like when the owner of the Dragon's Lair shop gave me some insight on that, and I hadn't really ever considered. But like whenever you got a brand new book, you need to have their title nice and big on there and let people see like, hey, this is such and such #1, you know. And granted, virgins and stuff are cool. And you know, maybe like for a 1 in 10, or like once you're at like a retailer level, great. But like if you're trying to just get your name out there and stuff, you're going to want to put your name on stuff, you know. And so I had to kind of accept that, because it's fun to do like the virgins and like the pairs, you know, like exclusive sets, because like you said, the artist can do one cover, one image, and then I can take that and turn it into multiple different, you know, variants of that. You know, I can get holochrome, I can do metal covers, I can do virgin covers, I can do red and green or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? And but it gets to be a little too much, and it's kind of overwhelming for people, I think. And it's an easy trap to fall into whenever you're trying to like put these reward tiers and stuff together, you know. So I've really tried to fine tune that and keep the product line something that people want, you know, not enough opportunity, enough options there, but not like just like overwhelming, you know, like they like God bless Marvel, man, but like sometimes they'll like for these new books and shit, like And then the retailers will get in on it, like with the artists, and they'll be like, next thing you know, like 50 different covers for like Baby Yoda or Stray Dogs was the one that really just beat it to the ground, man. Stray Dogs must have had, by the end of it all, must have had a freaking homage cover for every single horror movie that ever came out. You know what I mean? It's like, God. And some of them look really neat, but like, man, it's just like, as a collector, especially, that'd be frustrating, man. It's like, I can't. What do you want from me, man?
Yeah,
the first two were cool.
So we're doing this block party con thing again in June, and last year we were invited to it, which is cool. So this is like a toy store that's like 40 minutes away from where I am, and there's a girl that was there, and she was there because her husband's a photographer. So their tent, it was outside, so it was our first outside event. The good thing we had a tent because it rained a lot. So he was in front of us, but the sidewalk kind of like separated us. But she, I guess, knew that we were there. But she came up near the end of it, and when it was not raining, and we didn't pack up because some people did pack up, and if you pack up, you're not allowed back. So one or two other comic book people were there that made their own comics, and I feel like I know one of them, but so they left. They're not going back, and we stuck it out, and then it cleared up, and then it was sunny and everything, because we were like, are people gonna show up? Because it doesn't seem like anybody's here right now. And then they showed up, and then she came up to the table at the end, and she's like, oh yeah, I like noticed you guys were over here, and it looks really cool what you're doing. She is covered in tattoos. So guess which one she bought. So then I was like, well, do you like tattoos? And she's like, no shit. So then she looked at me. Yeah, I'm definitely getting this. And I'm like, oh, it has like a few variant covers. And she's like how many? And then Dylan's like, and then he took all of them out. He's like, this one, one that Greg hates. So I don't hate it. I'm not a big fan of it because it didn't come out how I wanted it to come out. That's kind of So there's all of the masks for issue 2, and then there's another variant, which is the one that's actually called the variant, and it's called the key variant, whatever. And it doesn't look like Shane at all. It looks like me. The artist took over a year to do it. He had like medical issues, so I get that. But I was like, so you gonna do that? Because like the Kickstarter's like coming around, and then he's like, okay. And I was like I see that you're working on other things like Disney.
That's kind of frustrating.
And you are the one who reached out to me wanting to make a cover. Oh wait, no, I did. No, let's retract that. So then I reached out to him because he works with other people that I know, and then he's like, oh yeah, well I'm like in the hospital right now, like sick with COVID, so that was a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, that fucking sucks. He's like, so I'll do it like a discount instead of $400, it'd be $200. I'm like, that's awesome. And then he's like, yeah, that should be ready at this time. Was not ready at that time. And then a year-ish around, it came around, and then he finally worked on it. And then it looked like he just took my like profile picture and just did his like style for a cover. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say no. I'm like, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So then he reached out to me some other time, and he's like, you want to cover? I'm like, I'm good right now.
Yeah, a little busy.
He's cool, but like you're working on like Disney and stuff, because like he did like Hades and other things, and then you're not you didn't like give two shits about my cover, and I paid you. So. Yeah.
That's I know what you mean. You want to feel like it's hard to you can't really expect anything of anybody else, but you want to see like the people that you work with and that you're in, that you've paid and that you've brought into this world of yours and stuff, and like you're supposed to be a team and stuff. You would like to see that your passion like reciprocated, like, or through them, like that they care about what they're doing, or that they have an actual genuine interest in what they're drawing, or the people that it's going to be that they're going to reach out to reach out with it. And sometimes that just doesn't always happen that way, and same thing happened like when I used to promote music and stuff. I'd rent the venue out, and I'd get headliners to come out, and I'd have other artists come in and pay their little rate, and then we'd have like a little lineup, and the headliners, the ones you're giving really the big money to, they're supposed to be pulling people in. Like sometimes, most of the time, it seems like they would just take the money and then just like, sit on their ass until it's like 30 minutes till showtime, and then maybe make one tweet or something. And like, and it's like, man, I was paying you to get people to come in here, not just to, take my money and then come in, like, but the, a similar thing can occur like with any kind of art, expression of art stuff, like the artists. You'd like to think like that, like when I work with these guys, I'd love to see them like, yeah, like check out our new book, and I did this, and with Jeofrey Cotton, and he wrote it, and that doesn't always seem to be the case. But then again, like I'm not like standing over people all the time, and like trying to like see what they're talking, like, are they saying anything good about me or what? Like everybody's got their own life and their own time frame, and as long as you see some from time to time, it's like cool, all right, they give a shit, but like all too often it seems like a lot of times they're just, I don't know, maybe people have they're living their own lives and stuff, and they don't, they don't care about it as much. But it sucks when you can, you really want people to feel like that the people you're working with, you really want them to like, like be into it like you are,
Yeah,
and
like,
that I think that's how you,
yeah, like,
oh, go ahead.
I had some artists that don't do that at all, and then I've had a good majority, like the ones that stuck around, like Adam. He like promotes ink when he can, and then like he has a life, so like his job and other things. And then Josh is probably the biggest like supporter as an artist for like in the teams that I have, just because like he does promote almost as much as me when we have a campaign. So Fish was really good, but like Josh is like definitely like up there with like he's promoting it as I'm promoting, and I'm like, oh, well, that's good. And he
that's nice
because he just has another audience other than what I got, so that does work.
It's interesting to move from artist to artist, and to have people like this guy come in and do a cover, and this guy, you're going to work with him. And because like once I get my interior guys set, that's usually like that's who I need. That's who I'm going to have. And for the sake of solidarity and the comic needing to be looking the same, like you tend to lock those guys in place. Like a center on an offensive lineman on a football team or something. Like those guys aren't going anywhere. It's big boy right there. So, but with the cover guys, you can kind of move them in and out, and swap, and you can see like which ones are more passionate than the others, or which ones might like maybe think a little too highly of themselves, or maybe they are deserving of that, or they feel entitled in that way for a reason. But nevertheless, it's interesting, like meeting all these different personalities and then seeing the back end of that, like which ones like actually do care, and they take the time to, like I said, you don't have to be constantly bombarding social media, but it's nice to see those guys will come out like tag you or something. I'm not the one I'm always tagging you. You know what I mean? Like tag me once in a blue moon, like, and let me know, like, tell people like about us and stuff, like, but I think also another big part of it is still being relatively new to all this stuff. When working with these guys, we've only done like maybe one issue together so far, so it's like nobody really knows what to expect. Like maybe they're looking at it like, well, shit, this could be the only thing we ever do or anything. Like, so once you get 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever going, then it's probably easier for that artist that you're working with to feel more connected to you, and to be willing to share and want to do that, so try to be patient.
Cool. Well, it's gonna be about that. So where can people find you?
So Keyngdom Comics, it's spelled a little differently. I'll spell it out though. So on Instagram and Facebook, it's going to be the same, just like my website. So it's KEYNGDOM kingdomcomics.com would be the website, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Keyngdom Comics. Yeah. So, but yeah, again, I would love to refer people to the website because there's contact information, there's news updates, there's all the descriptions and covers and everything available. I do international shipping there, which is really good. It's got it all built into it, so I can actually reach more people than anywhere else through my Shopify, through my website. So definitely check me out there. And then yeah, we'll do this again sometime in the near future. Once you guys, once you can work me back in, maybe to the rotation or something, because again, like right now I'm kind of at a lull, you know, like the calm before the storm, where I'm still trying to get things back, you know, get things rocking and rolling. And then once that all locks in, then it'll be full steam ahead. And again, I'm always looking to network and talk to people and hang out for a little while and chop it up about comic books and shit, you know.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it again, man. Thanks for having me.